And what's ultimately ironic about this is that means that a lot of things that are coming out of critical race theory or critical race theory light or whatever you want to call it are ultimately antithetical to the African American ethos. And that is one of the greatest scandals that no one is talking about
What
today.
do you mean the African American ethos? What is that?
So there's a great author, Albert Murray, who wrote this book, The Omni-Americans, or Alternatives to the Folklore of White Supremacy. He wrote it in like the 70s or something like that. He was this really dope jazz critic. And he talked about how within African-American culture, there is what he calls a kind of idiomatic expression, which he defines as impromptu heroism culture. Another synonym of this is the hero's journey. So if you're familiar with like Joseph Campbell or Carl Jung and that sort of thing. And he talks about how in jazz as an art form and in the blues, there's this philosophy that affords musicians the ability not only to literally play with the music, but metaphorically play with anything that life brings them, both the negative potential and the positive potential. And that is a part of the artistic art form that is central to African American culture. And so once you start going down the path of the death of metaphor, the death of context, and all of these things, you're talking about the death of art, and you're talking about the death of something very central to African American life.
I love this about jazz is because you'll start on a note, you're in a key, and you'll hit all the wrong notes that aren't in the right key, and then you'll end on the right note in the key. And that's like the hero's journey, all the mistakes along the way, and then
which are necessary. Which are necessary.
There's this recording I was listening to recently of Norm Macdonald.
Okay.
He was on a radio show apparently with like a woke producer or radio host. Or maybe she's just one of those people who's like, I'm just going to say what I'm supposed to say because I'm on the radio and I get canceled. And Norm Macdonald, have you ever listened to this guy?
I don't think so. I mean, I know of him, but I don't think I've heard him.
Definitely.
He's got this thing where
greats.
he talks in a very like slow and blunt way, and that's how he drives his comedy. So he's talking to her and he goes, you two might get mad at me, but I'm quoting Norm Macdonald.
Oh, boy.
And this
no, is this one of these?
No.
Okay.
He says, black people are poorer than white people, and poor people are dangerous.
And he was just he was quoting information, right?
That's what he says. And then the host goes, no, whoa, you can't say that. No. And he was like, what do you mean? And she's like, you can't say that about black people. And he goes, you think black people are richer than white people? She's like, no, I'm not saying that. And he goes, poor people commit crimes. That's what they keep saying, isn't it? He's like, I think systemic racism's a real thing. And that means you, and so the way he said it, shocked and offended people. They started getting calls and people were calling in like, you can't say that. You know, I went to school with two black people and they were way richer than I was. And then he goes, yeah, and a guy in a wheelchair could probably be faster than me. But if I said I'm typically faster than people in wheelchairs, I'd be telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And so what I found really fascinating about what he said when he said that is, we often hear from the critical race theorists things like systemic racism is a real problem, which creates generational wealth gaps, which results in a disproportionate amount of black people being impoverished relative to white people. However, there are more white people who are impoverished. Then they say poverty breeds crime. And actually, my understanding is it's all true, right? Crime isn't based on race. It's based on poverty levels.
Circumstances.
But when Norm Macdonald just says it that way,
it
actually made them argue against him because the way he said it was so blunt, it came off as kind of offensive or racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.